I'm Kyle Peplow. I am the camera and cinematics designer and programmer on Plushy Night. Currently, I'm working on a non-interactive real-time camera setup, which allows the camera to move from a player-controlled setup over to a more of a guided setup that allows the camera to kind of follow Plushy Night through the scene to help draw attention to more aesthetic parts of the level and to bring the player's attention to other areas of the game. One of the many challenges I had to overcome would have to actually be with the player-controlled camera. There's a lot of things to take into consideration when building the player-controlled camera. For instance, where the camera is going to be in the environment and what kind of things it'll be colliding with, what will provide the best perspective for the player and make sure that they're able to see the things they need to see. There was a lot of things to take into consideration for keeping things in view. For instance, the near plane of the camera, which is the closest point in which the camera or the screen will actually be showing. This would end up passing through the terrain, and I'd have to find ways to push the camera forward and place it into a position that was optimal for viewing. The other things in the environment, since we have a lot of trees in Plushy Night and a lot of other foliage and other objects that the camera can collide with, we had a weird bouncing back and forth that we had to overcome. So I had to essentially take a approach to analyze the data for all of the trees and see how close they were and try to smooth that out. Part of the challenges that we came across was determining what was between Plushy Night and the camera in order to prevent the camera from being occluded from Plushy Night. And in order to do this, we had to first figure out what tools were made available to us from Vision, which is our engine, and then apply those tools or produce those tools on our own if was anything available to us to go ahead and determine that. One of the tools we used was a ray casting method, which shot a ray from Plushy Night, our character, to the camera. And whatever object that would collide with, the closest object, would then be a distance of measurement for where to place the camera. At first we started from the center of the camera, but we still found that edges of the screen would clip the terrain and other objects in the environment. And as a result, provide the character with parts of the scenery we didn't want to expose them to, and thus disrupting the feel of the game. So from there, in order to figure out what we could do further, I went ahead and decided to look at other potential ways of trying to get data that would help us determine how to keep the camera in view without clipping the environment. So our first option was then to look at the frustum, which is a part of the camera that actually contains the actual view of our scene. And a part of that frustum was the near plane. And so I had to find a way within the engine to go ahead and get that frustum and then calculate the 4 points of the corner, which is basically the four corners of your screen in the environment as they're represented in the game, and then cast rays to those 4 points. Once we determined that, I then had to calculate how to actually adjust the distance and account for that. So there was a lot of linear algebra and trigonometry applied to that in order to get that working. And once we did, we got that nice push up of the camera whenever it collided with particular objects in the scene that we didn't want including our view. As part of my tasks with being the camera and cinematics designer, I had to do a little bit of exploration outside my discipline. So one of these explorations happened to actually be studying cinematography and how camera positioning, panning, depth of field, other aspects that a typical graphics programmer might have knowledge of, but not how the artist might envision using them. So trying to provide an appropriate tool set for the cinematic tool sequence forced me to kind of expand beyond my field and really explore these other solutions outside my expertise. One of the contributions that I've made to Plushy Night was the addition of our cinematic sequence tool set. Now, what the cinematic sequence tool set did for us was allow us to provide real-time cinematics within the Vision engine. What the tool provided was that once we added this tool into the engine as a plugin set for our producers, they would then be able to go in and set up timed events within the scene, such as where to move entities in the environment, what animations to be playing, dialogue that could be spoken, and even control the music, as well as the camera's position. A lot of these components had to be developed in a 3-man team, which I went ahead and helped produce the tasks and assign and get all the components organized. This tool today is being used in the Plushy Night engine, much to my delight. When it comes to game development, I have a strong love for programming as much as anything else in gaming. So while I want to get my start off in programming, I would like to expand into other areas as well. Whether that be production or design or other aspects. But I'm really, really interested in handling many of the graphical aspects that come with developing a game engine and providing the tool sets necessary to bring out a game to its fullest.